Ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to stand in front of you to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. So allow me to thank the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy for guesting us on this special occasion. 30 years ago might seem a long time, but I was 20 then, and I forged my early years as a young adult. To be honest, until then, the war was not in my everyday life. Still, I remember clearly watching television on the day it fell. This is the moment when I realized not only what it meant for the German people, but also for the world. These people spoke the same language, faced atrocities, were sometimes part of the same family, and ended up on a different side of the wall. The nationhood of the German people, split in two parts, was denied in the name of a balance of world power and ideology. It also meant the end of an era, the end of a totalitarianism, and the end of the Soviet communism. The challenge was how to make two sides of the same country who had different realities live together again, like two people who were forced to divorce against their will and who lived their own life, their ups and downs, who meet years later and decide to live together again. But I'm not here to tell you about all this, that you know very well already. No, I think that the best way to pay tribute to all those who suffered in this past era is to prevent the rise of new barriers. Our world is at risk, and we owe freedom to our citizens. How can we be free if we cannot ensure security? And safety has always been a sovereignty issue. At a time when populism is rising because of numerous threats, our responsibility as policy makers is to ensure our nation's cohesion. It comes through human development and social justice, and so are intrinsically linked to the ability to create and to redistribute wealth. The reign of fake news is built upon societal changes through digitalization, social and regular media. Their business model relies on the time spent on them and advertising. Since people will look at what they believe, algorithms depend on the public response and try to show what people want to believe, even though it is a simplification or even inaccurate. The result is radical ideas emerge and cohesion eroded, and everyone will be tempted to blame someone else for their problems. This is why walls and barriers have come back. Some want to build a wall between two countries to prevent illegal immigration. Some others want to withdraw from Schengen. This is today's reality. The European Union was meant to ensure peace in our continent after two terrible world wars. It started with the European Coal and Steel Community and is now a political union. Two ideas, economic and political, led this movement. These ideas were to promote common interests and resurrect a shared culture and build strength out of the diversity of the members of the alliance. While the world was reshaping, the European Union tried to extend to new countries step by step. But as it grew, the ability to make common decisions became more difficult. Brexit is a symptom of this crisis of meaning that grows in the European countries. Our diversity has never been our weakness. No. But the pace at which this extension couldn't help the member states to reach the same economic development. Of course, each member state tried to defend its own interests, which is a normal reaction. For years, politicians have pointed out the responsibility of the European Union for taking unpopular decisions. With such a lack of courage, how can we expect people to trust both the European Union and their representatives? When something turns badly, people find someone to blame. Unfortunately, history has shown this too often. The last economic crisis we faced has taught us that instead of looking for common solutions, we mostly developed answers in our own countries. Politically, it could have been a way to ensure the confidence of the people towards its leaders, but investing in a European solution might have been more efficient. It would have required two things: solidarity and confidence. Solidarity first, because where is the meaning of a union if we cannot rely on each other? And how can we develop solidarity without confidence on our allies? We are stuck because of those years when politicians didn't want to assume their responsibilities. When there is such suspicion, it is quite difficult to make people understand that there is no better way to develop their country's sovereignty but to promote a European one. According to some political movements, geographical borders are more than a simple political market. They are a sovereignty issue that they consider not being taken seriously by governments, who would be traitors for going against the people's will and putting against the safety and the economic development of the nation. In this context, I shall say that I understand their fears, but they are wrong. I understand their fears since a nation can be defined within borders in comparison to those who are to the other side of these barriers. But they are wrong, because having European borders, Schengen borders, it is not giving up policing power nor letting a free entrance on the European soil. No. Having borders at this scale is only recognizing that we are part of the same union and that we share an identity and common interests. There's never been these fears between administrative areas within a country. Why should there be between member states of the European Union? We have to address answers to this cultural and economic insecurity feeling. The European Union development has been opposed way too long to an effective border control or pointed out like a threat to the national economy. The point is, people think there were walls all along borders within the European Union. It is false. There have never been. There were only some on the roads, but we could seriously think that there were a full border control at each square meter in the Alpes? It is a total nonsense. Collectively, we can ensure a more effective and real border control at a larger scale, with mutualist means and hence development inside our common borders. There is a double reason behind this call for barriers: an economic and a cultural insecurity. Time has come for Europe to wake up and address these fears. We shall recognize that identity is not exclusive. I am not only a member of the French Parliament, I am a mother, a wife, a university teacher, a lawyer, a Toulonnaise. I'm French, therefore I'm European. And I shall say that I don't feel threatened by anyone who doesn't look like me, doesn't share a part of my identity, because I know that we all expect to live in peace and with dignity. Forging our common identity might take some time, but it has already begun. One of the most known programs is Erasmus, to promote mobility of students and teachers, allowing them to discover a new country, a new culture, and enrich our researching abilities at a European scale. Yesterday, the first European universities signed their partnership in Brussels at the time when the second call for projects was launched. How can we know each other if we don't even meet? European citizenship allows the young European adults to have a free ticket to discover Europe through trains thanks to Interrail. The Louvre, the famous Parisian museum, celebrates Leonardo da Vinci's genius 500 years after he passed away. Erasmus, Da Vinci, two eminent European people known worldwide among so many other personalities who shows that culture has never known boundaries in Europe. As a university teacher, you understand why this is so important to me. But we now have to go beyond and reach the European citizens on all that we share, for better and for worse, to make them understand why it is so important that Europe rises in order to make its member states be still sovereign in the future. The cohesion of the Union relies on the will of its citizens and on the cultural emulation that will be able to develop. The second dimension of the fears expressed by the European citizen is on our ability to have an economic development leading to a visible human enhancement. Right after the consultations on the future of Europe, I began to work on this issue because even though we are supposed to have a single market, the truth is that the European market can only be reached by the leading companies who have enough legal resources to develop elsewhere in Europe. We have 27 different markets. The economic studies made it very clear. Harmonizing the legislation and the public regulation regarding the business issues would have as a consequence an increase of 40% of the commercial volume between the European countries, and more importantly, an increase of 14% of the mean disposable income among European workers. Some have already tried and also failed, but we cannot afford failure anymore. We must develop a methodological approach to meet this challenge. This is why I proposed to the French Prime Minister lately, we must give the tools to the small and medium enterprises to know the legal expectations in the countries they want to settle in. This work could begin with a compilation of the legal norms at the national and European level, organized in the different branches of the business law, like the distribution law, the commercial law, or the intellectual property law, for instance. It would require to make the current tools like ORLEX and ULEX evolve. Based on this post-work, the European Union would define which parts of the business law could change step by step. Of course, social and fiscal laws wouldn't be impacted in the first place because our social systems are way too different at the moment, and it wouldn't be beneficial for the member states to have a radical change in this matter. Last but not least, we should ask the companies and especially the SMEs what they expect from this work and offer them a European legal statute recognized by every member state. One of the tools we could create could be a flexible statute like the simplified joint stocks company statutes that we have in France, the SAS. The world that gathered us today tells 30 years ago, but we managed to build new barriers in our daily life. There are plenty of actions that can be laid to avoid such problems. I am truly confident that European Business Code harmonizing the business laws in our countries would help to the SMEs to cross borders and help a significant improvement of the business climate in the EU, in favor of the European companies as well as the foreign ones who will discover then a truly united single market. This This enhancement would have such implication on the European citizens that it would also strengthen the meaning of having a European Union. Fighting barriers in an everyday job. It comes through both claiming common values and have a visible action on the field. Claiming values without any action is pointless, and acting without narrowing the frame in which the action is made can be meaningless. It is an absolute requirement to reaffirm the necessity of freedom in our societies and to make the European Union the new land of opportunities. Join the fight against these new wars. Join the fight against hate speech and fake news. Help us make freedom, progress and respect the key values for us to be united in diversity. Thank you.